Hello, I'm Paul McCarran. I'm here at the retreat house of Loyola on the Potomac. During the weekday masses throughout the Easter season, the gospel passages are mostly from John's gospel. Some people find John's gospel too heady, theological, for easy reading, but I think that evangelist often puts things quite simply, quite directly. For instance, on Monday, the second week of Easter, that's April 12th, the gospel passage describes the beginning of a conversation between Jesus and the Pharisee named Nicodemus, who you probably remember the story, he came to talk with him. Right at the beginning of their conversation, Nicodemus has trouble understanding Jesus' reference to being born into God's presence. Perhaps remember Nicodemus protesting, "You mean born again? How can anyone be born a second time? Once you're out of the womb, you can't get back." Seems to be very puzzled. From the very start of his gospel, John insists that God is struggling to give himself to us, to be with us. So here, John describes Nicodemus as unsure that anyone can get back into God's presence once they've abandoned it. John then tells us Jesus suggested that Nicodemus should imagine the possibility of being born into, becoming alive again with God's Spirit. He tells us that Jesus suggested that Nicodemus think of the wind. Listen to it, he says. It blows wherever it wants. You can't predict where it might move next. Then he asks, do you think you can predict the moves of God's Spirit? He's telling Nicodemus and us that we should stop pretending we can explain life's mysteries to ourselves. Instead, let yourself be guided by God's Spirit.